Thank you, and hello to everyone here, and hello to everyone out there. Here in Cincinnati, we're competing against our Cincinnati Reds tonight. So I'll try to make this at least as lively and entertaining as they are. I don't know if I'm going to succeed or not, but I'm thrilled to be here because this is an area, as you can probably tell by what I do, this is near and dear to my heart. The whole issue of changing careers is something that no one ever teaches us how to do. We're never given a manual or a handbook, or whether it's high school or college, or obviously within our employers or our parents, or there's nobody out there who really teaches us how to do this. Yet we know a lot of people who've changed careers probably. And we look at them and we say, how did you do that? You know, was it some secret potion? Did someone sprinkle fairy dust on you? And so we admire that because it looks from a distance to be so difficult to do. Yet people do it every day. So what's the secret sauce? You know, I wish I could tell you there was one right answer and I could give you that one secret word or phrase that would make the whole thing happen for you. But as I always say, if I could do that, I'd be living on a private island somewhere coming at you remotely as well. So what we want to do is kind of walk you through what does it mean to go through a career change? What does that look like? What are the possibilities? How do you put it in action? So over the next 3 weeks, starting tonight, we're going to be giving you tips and ideas and strategies, some things to think about as you go through your journey of making some sort of a career change. And yeah, as the slide implies, there is a right way to do it. So we're going to be taking questions from those of you who are not in the room with us here today, as well as those of you who are. And we've got a lot of people standing by to take your questions, and we'll take as many of them as we can. Now, a lot of these things are going to be very personal, questions that only apply to you. So when we take those types of questions, I'm going to try to answer those in a way that it applies to more than one person. Because what you may find is that a lot of you have the same types of questions. There's a lot of very typical, kind of frequently asked questions when it comes to whether it's job search or changing careers or really anything career related. So there's a lot of applicability in a lot of the questions that are being asked. So just to give you a feel for what the next 3 weeks is going to look like, tonight we're going to be talking about kind of an understanding of career change. What can it look like? Does it always have to be a wholesale throw out the baby in the bathwater? Or are there some things in between that you can do? And really getting in the right mindset, because it's hard. You know, finding the right job is hard. Changing careers sometimes, is harder depending on what you're trying to change from and to. But believe me, it is so worth it if you find the right thing. When you do, and if you do, you are what I call, you skip to the shower on Monday mornings because you're just so happy. And the short-term pain and the agony sometimes of climbing that mountain to find something better is greatly, greatly outweighed by the benefit you get out of it. And so stick with me. Week 2, this time next week, we're going to be talking about how do you explore options. How do you consider alternatives? How do you figure out what your world of possibilities is? And then how do you plan for it? How do you move toward it? Sometimes we think that the gap between where we are and where we want to be is just insurmountable. So we're going to talk about how do you get there, maybe not overnight, but how do you get there in a way that makes sense? I look at it this way. If I said to you, you need to go to Dallas, but I didn't give you a map, you'd probably find Dallas, but you'd probably go way out of your way, you'd take a lot of wrong turns, and it wouldn't be the best use of your time. But if I give you a map to find Dallas, kind of tell you what the markers are along the way, then you're probably much more likely to have a great experience and end up sooner in Dallas. The sooner we get there, the better, right? It's the same way with career change or career planning. And week 3, we're going to talk about taking action. What do you need to start doing now? What do you need to keep doing on a consistent basis so that the career that you are looking to get is not just a dream, but it's actually something that you're taking steps toward? And you know what? I'm going to tell you up front. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Sometimes it's 3 steps forward and 4 steps back. Sometimes it's 3 just good steps forward. But the trick is you've got to always keep moving. And it is, it's one of those things where sometimes we think, I wish I could. I'd really love to be. But we don't do anything. What do? We stick it under our pillow. And we hope that the career fairy is going to come. And the next morning, we're going to wake up when we're there. And it just doesn't work that way. You have to take positive action. I'm breaking it out. The reason we're doing this in 3 weeks is because this is hard and there's a lot of thinking to do in the meantime. There's a lot of processing to do. There's a lot of applying to do, applying it to you and your situation. And so putting the time in between gives you a chance to go through that. And so that's why we're doing it over a 3-week period, to do bites. It's easier. What do they say about how do you eat the elephant, a bite at a time or something like that? It's the same thing with career change. So we're going to follow that process. Those of you who've seen any of my presentations before know that this is the anchor of all that I do. Career happiness. This is what we are shooting for. Everyone in this room should be shooting for career happiness. Now the trick is, everybody defines it differently. And so whether you are looking to find a job, you're unemployed and you're looking to find a job, or you're in a job that's okay, or miserable, or pretty good, and you want to get happier, this is the skeleton, the straw man, the framework, whatever you want to call it, for career happiness. And this is what we should all be striving for. Now the trick is, John's definition of career happiness is very different from Joe's, is very different from Emily's, is very different from Fred's. So this is an individual answer. It's not like a math problem where there's one right answer and we're all trying to get that answer. It's about each of us looking for our own answer, and only we know what that looks like. So let's talk about this for a minute, because this is the framework in which you will analyze, look at, think about every decision that you make in this career change or in a job search that you have. What do you like and what do you love? When we're doing something we like, first of all, we're just much more pleasant to be around, aren't we? When we like what we're doing. Now, not every day at work is going to be puppies and sunshine. We can't like every minute of the day, but you want more of your day to be stuff you like than not. Now, plus, what you're good at. You can like something and not be good at it, and that is not good. That's not going to get you very far, and probably you won't be able to keep your job. So not only is it important to like what you do, but it's also important that you're good at it. Those two together must exist. Okay? There are things, I watch people who cook for a living, and I think, that would be so cool, but I would be very bad at it. Or we like to sing in the shower instead of on stage. So there's stuff that we wish we could do, but we can't. And likewise, there's also stuff we're good at, but we don't want to do anymore. Or we don't want to do it all. We get burnt out. On top of that, it has to be something you can get paid to do. You might love to do something and be really good at it, but if there's no demand for it, or you can't make the kind of money you need to make, then it's either called a hobby or it's just something you can't pursue right now. Okay, so there has to be a demand for it. And it needs to be in a place you can be successful. And this sometimes is the big one. It gets to culture, it gets to your colleagues, the mission of the organization, the products and services, the geography, the commute, the leadership style of the organization. All of these things, it has to be something that fits with you. And here's the tricky thing about this formula. You can be rocking on all cylinders and on Friday, and then on Monday you come in and there's a new manager, and it happens to be somebody that you do not get along with. Oops, guess what? This whole thing comes tumbling down. So the diligence to watch this and to be very vigilant about preserving this model is all on you. And it's no wonder, if you really think about it, how things can get really out of whack. You loved your job on Friday, they just put you in a new department. You don't like the work so much. Everything else starts to get screwy. So when you're looking for a career change or just a job change, this is what you need to keep in the back of your mind. Wherever you go, whatever things you pursue need to fit in this model. Okay, so the career happiness formula, the career happiness model, you will hear me refer to, and this is what I'm talking about. Okay? All right. Have you ever said, let's figure out where everybody is. Have you ever said, I don't know what I want to do, but I know it's not this? I hear some giggling. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Or, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Can I just tell you that's one of my pet peeves when people say that? Because unless a 12-year-old is saying that to me, my response is always, hey, look in the mirror, you are grown up. It's time to figure it out. But we say that a lot. And when you think about if that is our mindset, then we are accepting the fact that we don't yet have to take responsibility for what we want to be and what we want to do. So banish that second one, please. It's okay to say the first one. Because I hear this a lot. Boy, I don't know what I want to do, but I know it's not this. Now let me back up for 1 second. At the bottom, one of the things I pointed out is I believe that everybody, when you look at the career happiness model, everybody is either looking to define their career happiness, get it, or own it. And so if you say one of these two things, you are looking to define your career happiness. You're not even worried about getting it yet because you don't even know what the it is, right? So we want to define what it looks like. We want to fill out our career happiness model. How about this? Have you ever said, I think, whoops, I have some extra words there. I know, I think I know. I know or I think I know what I want to do, I just don't know how to get it. Okay? So there are people like that who can say, I can define it, but I don't know how to get it. Now the own piece, looking to own it, that's completely off the table for this workshop series. However, so I just want to point out to you, sometimes when we're able to kind of, instead of just saying, like I heard one of you say earlier tonight, I am so lost. I have no idea what I want to do, and I have no idea where to start. You've got to start somewhere. You've got to grab onto something. So if you can think in your mind, I'm looking to define it, or I know what I want, I'm just looking to get it. If you kind of say, okay, I'm in that group. That's where I am. I'm either in define or get. Now, and then if you're lucky, you know what all the pieces of your career happiness are, but most of us don't. And guess what? It changes. You know, your definition of career happiness is going to be different 5 years from now than it is today. Okay, so you have to know that these are the pieces. All right. Why do people change careers? Let's start talking about what it is. We're doing understanding and mindset tonight. People change careers for a variety of reasons. And if either of these ever apply to you, just sort of put your hand up part way so I could see what I got here. You were in the wrong job. Okay? And you can have more than one answer. You were in the wrong industry. So you liked your job, but you just didn't care for the place you were doing it. Okay? Your interests changed. I mean, you changed. Something here changed. Your interests changed. Maybe it was okay 5 years ago, but it's not now. Or you have a personal change or a life change. Yeah. You know, all of those things, as of 60 days ago, I have an empty nest. And so that creates different opportunities for me than 61 days ago. If you have kids and they go off to elementary school and they're not home, you know, you don't need to be there all day anymore. Or you have to care for aging parents, you know, whatever, a health issue. Sometimes personal changes cause a career change, or at least kick you in the seat of the pants to do something different. And it's any one of these things. Anything else? I mean, what else other than these sort of things have inspired you or someone you know to think about a career change?
Market changes.
Great. The market changes. In other words, maybe there was a demand for what you did before, but not so much anymore. Okay? Yep, here's some agreement there. What else?
Maybe you just don't like the people that you work around, new management,
Yeah.
not real crazy about.
Right. So the culture changes, and maybe it used to be like a great, like very comfortable collaborative work environment, and all of a sudden people come in and they're starting to pit people against each other, and you say, I'm out.
Yep.
Right? That happens. Okay? So you decide where you are is not a fit anymore, and you say, maybe you say in that situation, I just want to change jobs, but sometimes you say, you know what? And sometimes this happens when we get laid off too. It really is the slap upside the head that causes us to say, you know what? As long as I'm making a change, why don't I just make a big change? Why don't I do something else? Okay? So there's all kinds of things that happen around us and inside of us that put us in a situation to change careers, where we say, I need to do something different. I had a client one time, actually it was a friend, and he worked in retail, doing something that he was not meant to do, believe me, and he loved technology. You know, he'd love to be standing behind the camera or doing any of those sort of things. And so he had like a side business helping people with their PCs, which I was a frequent user of that. And he did like some kind of webmastering. He was sort of a webmaster for a few people, but he was selling in retail. And he was probably 48 years old. Really thought, I can't make that kind of a change. So we had talked over the years about, you really need to think about it. I can't, I can't, I don't know how, I'm scared, blah, 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 blah. All those things that go into us talking ourselves into not being able to make those kind of changes. Well, unfortunately, his 9-year-old daughter got very sick with a brain tumor, and she died about 6 months later. And after he, came through that a little bit, we sat down and he said, I'm ready to make a change. He said, after my daughter died, he said, I'm not scared of anything. And so sometimes it's big things in our lives that make us say, you know what? I'm already been pushed out here, now I'm going to do something different. So whatever brings you to this point that you're either watching out there or you're sitting in here, everybody's got a different sort of turning point or tipping point that made them come and say, you know what, I need to do something different. And it could be any of these things or anything what you guys said. So there's all kinds of reasons why we change careers. And guess what? In a lot of cases, we do it more than once. It's exhausting to think about, but most people do change careers more than once. Now, when I say change careers, we're going to talk about what that means, because I want you to get kind of clear on what you're trying to do. Oops. All right. Before we talk about that, okay, let's get very clear on one thing. It's the same you wherever you go. So if you're working at, Cintas, and you're working in human resources, and then you go to Kroger and work in customer experience, you are the same person. Okay? And sometimes we think that just because we're changing careers, we have to be a completely different person. We have to go, all right, well, that was a different life. No, it's really the same life. But what we're doing is we are utilizing the components of ourselves differently. Does that make sense? So let's say you're in a job where you don't get to do much in the way of customer service, but you've always really enjoyed that. It's just little snippets here and there. Let's say at Cintas you loved you really loved working with the employees and kind of helping them with a service mentality. You go to Kroger or you go to whatever company and you're working in customer experience, you're going to get a lot of customer service skill utilization. And if that's something you love and something you're great at, you're going to come over here and you are going to be using you're going to be using a piece of your skill set in a different way, in an expanded way, in a more blown out way. But it was there all along. Maybe you had to develop it. Okay, so you are the same person wherever you go. But we use our experiences differently. We use our skills differently. We learn something new every day. I saw a saying, I don't know if it was from like Winnie the Pooh or something it was about, or Alice in Wonderland, or something like, I can't go back to who I was yesterday because I'm not that same person today. Every day we learn something new, we're able to do something new. But of course those changes are so subtle we don't even notice them. And so one day we wake up and we say, you know what? I can do this, I know this is the experience I have, and here's the interests I have. So when we go to when we're in one job and we are in a box on the org chart, we are performing to that job description, right? So we are doing what we are told to do. But we are more than that. So if you are fitting, if everything you're doing is right in here in this box, you really overflow that box considerably, because there's skills and traits and experiences and knowledge you're not using. So when you go to do something different, what you're really doing is repurposing your skills, your knowledge, your experience, your interests. Sort of like you're a puzzle, and it's all put together beautifully for your job inside this box in this org chart, and you take the whole thing apart and you throw it up in the air. And you pick up 6 pieces, and that creates a different profile, but it's still you, right? It still comes from the puzzle of you. So what we're really talking about here is not necessarily, we're going to talk about different levels of career change, but I want you to think about the concept of pivoting. Okay? We're going to go through these examples. I want you to think about the differences in these examples. We are pivoting because there are only certain pieces of our careers that we're probably changing. So let's go through some examples. When we pivot, we are changing one or more components of our situation. Okay, so let's go through these. I want to give you some real life examples so you can start to say, which one of these applies to me? Which one of these sounds like me? Okay? If an accountant worked at one of the big 4 firms and was in audit and left to start his own CPA firm, is that a career change? How come? Why not?
Work the CPA does. Right?
Okay, okay. Okay, what's different about the first job versus the second job?
First job's a large major firm, and the second one is a startup, so it's his own office.
Okay, okay. Anybody disagree with that? Uh-huh.
He owns his own firm, he makes his own decisions, he makes his own box versus being forced into a box.
Okay, okay. So when you're, if you're a CPA in a large firm, there's probably processes, structures, somebody's telling you what to do. Someone's going out and getting the clients too, right? They say, here, Fred, do this work. Okay? And yes, the work on your desk, so the actual tasks that you're doing are the same. So when we talk about pivoting, he's over here, and he is literally going to do maybe this. He's going to turn like this, use this foot still, but put the second foot in a different place. Okay? What else? What else? What does someone who starts their own CPA firm, what do they need to know what else do they need to know that you don't necessarily have to know inside of a firm, inside of a big firm?
Marketing, getting clients.
Yeah. That's usually what stops people, frankly, from starting their own business is marketing. Marketing, yeah? Yeah. Ooh. Actually being responsible for going out and finding your own people and then living with your decision. Yeah. What else? Legal, yeah. How do you want to incorporate? You know, who do you want to target? What customers do you want to target? Do you want to go after small firms, large firms, professional services, nonprofits? You know, where are you going after? What's your customer base? Probably have to do your own books too. You ought to be pretty good at that, of course. But you know, you got to do it for yourself, right? If you think about it, in this situation, this person is taking their core skill set, that's not changing, and moving it over and doing it in a different way, in a different place, and will be developing new skills. They've got their core job skills, but these entrepreneurial skills have to go on top of it. So it is some level of career change. Now, what I'm trying to get at here is you're going to see with our examples, there are different levels of career change, different types of career change. And so when we think of the term career change, we think, oh my gosh, we think of that last one, construction worker to ballerina. That ain't happening, right? Okay, that one's up there just to show you that is what we generally, when we think about a career change, we go, oh my gosh, I got to start over. I was doing this and I can't do this anymore. Now I got to go reinvent myself, be a completely different person and go over here and do this. That's why it's so exhausting, because who wants to do that? In reality, very few people say, I want to go from construction worker to ballerina. And we're going to talk about, you know, there's a million reasons why, except for the visual it gives you, there's a million reasons why that's not going to work. So if someone who is working in accounting in a big company says, I want to go start my own business, a lot of considerations as to whether that's a good idea, obviously. But that is a type of career change. And if having your own CPA firm gives you happiness, in other words, you like to do it, you're good at it, you're pretty good at the marketing, you're partnering with other people, and you can make money at it, that's kind of important, and you like the flexibility that working on your own gives you, that can take you from, on a scale of 1 to 10, a 5 to a 9. Now, there are plenty of CPAs in large firms who the thought of starting their own CPA firm is just never going to happen, no interest, etc. Okay, so this is just one example. So that really is some level of career change, but it's not throwing out the whole thing and starting over. Okay, it's just one example. Let's take the second one. I'm in human resources at an organization, and I want to be a recruiter working with one of the big search firms. Career change? Okay, what's the differences? What would you imagine that person would have to learn?
To be a recruiter, I assume again an HR person pretty much has a defined office.
Yep.
And then a recruiter with a search firm, you have to do a lot of salesmanship in terms of finding corporations that you want to help them meet their needs in terms of who they want to hire.
Right.
They might go to the HR, but there's a lot of salesmanship and network that you
Yeah.
get within that.
Yeah, that's right. You've got to go out and find the companies. You've got to sell it. And also, one of the things recruiters do, you may or may not know, is they work a lot of evenings. So your lifestyle might change because they're calling people who are working. Who say, I can't talk to you. Can you call me tonight? And when I don't want to tell my boss, I don't want my boss to know who I'm talking to. So you're doing a lot of evening and weekend calls. So is your lifestyle going to be okay with that or not? So you can see, again, it's a pivot. It's a taking some level of knowledge and saying, I'm going to go use it differently. Now, what if you had an HR person that said, hey, I'm going to go start my own CPA firm. Start my own accounting firm. If your brother, who is an accountant, or is an HR, said to you, I'm going to go start an accounting firm, you'd look in his glass to see what he was drinking, wouldn't you? Okay, that makes no sense. But these first two make sense, don't they? Agree? Okay. Okay, so let's say you are working at an education products company. They make materials for the classroom. And you are selling, you're sitting inside a company selling to school boards, professors, parent PTO organizations. And you say, you know what, I am really loving kind of the educational materials. I think I'd like to go be a high school guidance counselor. Career change? Yeah, does it make sense? Okay, what do you imagine? You are that inside sales rep. Pretend that's somebody in this room. And you say, I really want to be a high school guidance counselor. What do you think the gaps are there? What do you think you have to do to get there?
Go back to school.
You probably have to go back to school. Those generally require a master's degree in counseling. So that's one of the things that you need to fill in your gaps with. Okay? What advice would you give somebody in this situation? If you were talking to your best friend and they said, man, I would love to go back and be a high school guidance counselor. Now, I know I have to go back to school. What do you think? What kind of other advice would you give them?
Deal with some high school kids.
Yeah. Yeah, that dealing with the high school kids thing. Yeah, that's true, right? Because when you're sitting inside a company, you're reading the theory and the materials and the academic part of it, and you say, I just think I love high school kids. So what advice would you give them?
Try it for a while.
Okay, how would you try it?
Volunteer.
Volunteer as a youth group.
Okay.
Talk to a counselor that's currently
Yeah.
what's their day-to-day like and what are the situations that they see.
Yeah. What can you generally, if you talk to somebody who is a high school guidance counselor, or you go maybe volunteer in a classroom, maybe your kid's classroom, or just say, I'd like to be a substitute teacher and I'll take my vacation days to do that so I can see what it's like. What are the possible outcomes of that?
Well, you'll find out if once, first of all, if you even like, if
Yeah.
you like the atmosphere, if you like the people. I was also thinking in terms of job shadowing. Actually,
Yeah.
you would follow a guidance counselor on a typical
Sure.
day to see what their day-to-day duties are. You might get in there and say, I don't like this,
Yeah, absolutely. So you could come out of there saying,
or you love it.
exactly. You come out and go, oh my gosh, I am exhausted, but it was awesome, right? Or come out and go, I'm exhausted, I'm moving into an adults-only community for the rest of my life, right? Yeah. Or you could say, I need to know more, okay? So when you say, I'm here and here's where I want to be, it's a matter of figuring out what the gaps are, okay? So still possible, right? Okay. All right. Self-employed landscape architect to candy store owner. Career change? Yeah. Okay. Possible? Yes. Anything's possible except that last one, right? Yeah.
Let's say that person makes
Yep.
You know, they may
Okay.
do little entrepreneurial skills, marketing, again, the salesmanship, how are you gonna get people into the business?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
But it may be a side venture or something I just like to do or think
Okay.
I'd like to try.
Okay. Like to try it? Yeah. So maybe it's a hobby, right? Because you say it might be something you're good at. Let's get back to our career happiness formula, right? Something you're good at, something you like to do. Okay, can I make a go of this as a business? If I have, you know, quadruplets getting ready to go to college, probably not, right? Okay, this one, depending on if you've ever been to the Loveland Bike Trail, Loveland Sweet Shop, down there, candy store, that's the owner. She was a self-employed landscape architect and now owns a candy store. And she did have a lifelong love of candy. When she was little, she was obsessed with candy, and her goal was to have the biggest candy collection in the world. And she would tell everybody she wanted to own a candy store, and they would all go, "Oh, pfft, right? You can't make a living at that. Once you go, you know, no, you know." So from being a child up until about 6-7 years ago, when she would travel, they would always go to candy stores to check them out. Then they found an abandoned building in downtown Loveland, and her boyfriend said, "You need to do this." And it is the cutest place, and she is so happy. But think about it. She makes most of the candy herself. So that's very creative, right? Believe me, and it's beautiful. She works with her hands. What'd she used to do? Yeah, making creative stuff with her hands. So we're the same person. We just have to figure out what it is that's going to rock our socks. And she is someone who never lost sight of that vision. And even if she never had a store, she would still be making candy at home. And she's like, I look at her and I go, I hate you, because she's like tiny. Like, how can you, I guess you get sick of it or something. But she makes ice cream, she makes candy, it is the coolest place. And I love it because it truly is a career change success story. But when you really dig into it and figure out where she came from and where the threads are in everything that she's done, it makes perfect sense that she ended up there. But we look at people and we say, wait a minute, you were this and now you're this? Man, you are a superhero of some sort. Because we don't take the time to dig in and figure out, how'd you get there, and really understand it. Our first response is, I can't do that. I can't do that. Okay? Construction worker to ballerina. If I said to you, man, you know what? I really think that the Reds' third baseman is going to retire, and I am pretty sure I can fill that role. If I said that to you right now, what would you say? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what's in your Dr. Pepper, right? Actually, if any of us said that, right? That's delusional. So when you look at the continuum of career changes that you can make, we very often think, I'm sitting here, I'm the construction worker, and I need to be the ballerina. Oh my heavens. Because it can feel like that big of a gap. You can feel like the construction worker who wants to put on a tutu. But everything in between is also a career change. It's about degrees of change. And so the accountant with a Big Four firm or starts a CPA firm, he is making a level of career change, some type of career change. And so when you really start to break it down and think about how much of a change will it take for you to get from here to here, this is much more friendly than from here to here. And so maybe your career happiness is a slight change. Maybe your career happiness is mid-change. Maybe your career happiness is a candy store from a landscape architect, which on the surface of it, you know, I don't have time, I can't do it, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, blah, 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 all the self-doubt that goes on. So really, when you think about this whole idea of continuum, and you start to think about, okay, I'm here, and maybe you are inside of an organization that you love, but you're in the wrong job. Maybe you're in marketing, but you really want to be in operations. Maybe you're in accounting, but you really want to be in human resources inside of your same company. That is some level of change. It's not construction worker to ballerina, because you're in the same company. So some aspects or some components are staying the same. So maybe it doesn't involve a company change, maybe it just involves a move inside of your organization. Or maybe you don't like your organization anymore and you're saying, you know what, I have an idea and I would really love to start my own business following this idea. Or you see somebody whose job you envy and you want to know, how do you get there? How do you get there? So on this, given where you are, what kind of thoughts or questions do you have about where we are so far? And you can apply it to yourself. If you want to ask a question that applies to your situation, that's fine too.
So if you want to make the change at the bottom, construction worker to ballerina, are you suggesting that you should do baby steps to get to that process and take multiple years to get to there?
Not necessarily. Based on what you and I talked about before the class, I don't think it's construction worker to ballerina. It's probably one up from that. No, you don't. I'll tell you what, when you start thinking about action, it's about tolerance for risk. You have to look at, income and money kind of stuff, your tolerance for risk, and all those factors. Is there a market for what you do? And one of the best ways to take baby steps is you're over here as the landscape architect, and just like Amy said, you start making candy on the side. So you start doing it. So so think of it this way: whatever job you're in now, that bucket's full. Okay, it's full of whatever. Okay, but you've got the second bucket over here you'd like to fill up. So what you start doing is you have to keep this bucket full. So you use your free time to start putting pebbles in this bucket. Okay. And when you get to a certain point where the pebbles are starting to collect and you've got some more traction and confidence and you understand what the market is and you have you're having some success and you're saying, man, I'm really enjoying this. Maybe you can find a way to back this down a little bit. Flexible work arrangements, job sharing, some of those sort of things. The goal, sometimes when you're doing sort of a two-fisted career change where you have to hang on to what you have, is to do this. Okay, so no, it doesn't necessarily take, it doesn't necessarily take years and years. If it requires some additional education, that's something, that's something that you can't mold to your own time frame.
I guess the reason I ask is baby steps and years is because it seems like everything that you might want to switch into takes experience, years of experience before you really become that marketable candidate. So
Not necessarily. Some things you bet. Yeah, but no, not necessarily. Up here, the first two could be started without years and years of planning and practice. First two. Actually, the fourth one could too, if you had it started on the side. So it really depends on what you're trying to switch into. But the beauty of the technology that's available to us these days and all of the resources and stuff we have access to and all the people that we get to know who can help us along this journey, it can really go, unless there's something in there like a degree or something like that you have to get, it can really go as fast as your risk tolerance will allow it to go, your finances will allow it to go, and your other life requirements will allow it to go. And of course, depending, I'm making blanket statements because there's a million kind of changes people can make. But anytime you want to use, when we're doing these classes, anytime you want to use yourself as an example to kind of have the group help you brainstorm how you might do that, please let me know, because we've got a lot of smart people here.
Let me ask a hypothetical.
Okay.
Let's say you are a CPA and you have 20 years of public accounting and industry experience and about 10 years of nonprofit, and you're kind of just trying to decide, it more seems to come down to the opportunity. I mean, you find the right organization, either back in industry or you can do both because you've done both.
Right.
So you're just trying to tip the scales and say, what's going to be the deciding factor in this case? And it kind of feels like just the nature or the quality of the organization.
Yeah.
The experience you're going to have.
Yeah, but anytime you're trying to decide between two options, okay, so you've got option A and option B, you can, when you think about as you're pursuing different types of careers or even different jobs, okay, it's okay to walk along a couple parallel paths at the same time, as long as you're qualified to do both of those things. So if you say, I had a client one time, he's like, he'd been an engineer his whole life. He's looking, engineering, he's, engineering. Oh, I guess I could do sales. I'm like, no, you couldn't. He had nothing in his background that said sales. You can't just decide you're going to do something else, because it would have taken him a long time to get that experience, and it didn't make sense. So if you say, I've been a CPA and you've worked as an accountant in nonprofits, that's what you're saying, right? Okay. So you have knowledge of working in a for-profit environment as well as a nonprofit environment, but the underlying skill set, you've got this skill set in accounting that you got and built in for-profits and in nonprofits. So this becomes the pot of you that you're moving forward with. And so the story that you're telling is, here's my experience, here's what I can do, here's the places I've done it. And then you're looking at culture, you're looking at opportunity, you're looking at what the market's demanding, you're looking at, do I want to be with these people all day? You're looking at a lot of factors to help you decide which way you want to go. As long as you are qualified to do the things that you're looking to do, it's okay to say either or. Okay, where people get into trouble is when they start saying things like, well, I can do anything. I'm a really fast learner. Then people just go, no, forget it. You're all over the place. Because the truth is we can't do anything, just everything. We can't. There's not a person in this room who can do any job. There isn't. And we've got to be okay with that. So, but you are talking about the same skill set using it differently. You could go out and do some consulting to nonprofits. You can do a blend. You can do some consulting and some part-time work, like project-based work. Like you could do project-based work, then you could do some volunteer work for a nonprofit, giving them, the benefit of your expertise, depending on your financial situation. The world of work has changed so much, I think, in a good way. It's a blessing and a curse. There's lots of opportunities. There's a lot of different ways work gets done now. It's not all boxed on the org chart, which creates opportunities for everybody in this room to put together what I call a portfolio career. So you're doing this part-time, a little bit of this. What that does for you is it keeps you from relying on one thing. And so when that one thing goes away, oops, guess what? Now you're from here back down to here. But if you're doing several things and you lose one of them, you're just here. So it's about how do we use our skills moving forward. And so you could go from a full-time and a regular job like you might have today, and your career change could be to something that's more of a portfolio career. You could say, are you between jobs right now?
I'm sorry.
Are you between jobs right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could say, okay, my last job was doing this. Here's what I want it to be moving forward. I want more time for travel, for grandkids, for fun, for volunteer work. And so therefore, I'm going to craft my career around my life. It sounds crazy, like how could I ever possibly do that? You can. People do it every day. But you have to be really intentional about what you want and what's going to make you happy. And that is where most people go, blah, 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 blah. They don't know. I just want a job. Well, if you just want a job, you're going to find one, but is it going to be one that's really going to give you the happiness that you deserve and that you want to have? Probably not, if you go about it in a haphazard way. It's like going to Dallas, right? We might end up in Kansas City. And we don't like Kansas City, but oh well, it's the best I can do. That's just not, my opinion, that's not good enough. I have aspirations for everyone, that everyone be career happy. What else? Other questions? You want to throw in examples or anything you're dealing with? All right, we'll move on. Oops. Okay, factors to consider. Talked about this. Personal issues. There have been many people who say, I want to be an entrepreneur, but their spouse is completely unsupportive of it. That is a problem. In almost every case, it will derail you if you do not have a supportive spouse. You've got kids that demand that you have kids in a situation where you can't travel. And this new job or this new business you want to start, this career change you want to make to a consulting role requires that you travel. So you want to consider your personal situation. Family, immediate family, your extended family, your health, the health of those around you, the commitments that you have locally or with the commitments that you have. Money, what does the job pay? There are definitely people who are in situations where they can go from making six figures to a third of that. They're fortunate, obviously. So you want to think, what does this realistically pay? And is that okay? Can I make it on that? That, of course, is always going to be one of your issues. Your skills and your gaps. What do you have now? What do you need to have in order to make that transition? What is going to keep me from becoming this? Is it possible? And introverts, people who like to think their way through things, and most accountants and technology people and engineers and scientists are all left-brain people. They think if they think about it long enough, they'll figure it out. There are a lot of problems you might solve in your day job that are that way, but this isn't one of them. You need information, you need resources, you need information, you need input from other people in order for you to make a good decision. What's your risk tolerance? There are people who can spin like the Dickens trying to make a decision about leaving a job that they absolutely hate, which is amazing to me. But I know it's out there because sometimes the devil we know is better than no devil or a new devil, even if that devil beats us on a regular basis every morning before we start work. Okay, so everybody has a different level of tolerance for risk. And you might have a high tolerance, your spouse might not. That's a problem. So what's your tolerance? There are people who jump out of airplanes, people who don't even go up in the sky. So you need to know, when it comes to your career, what's your tolerance for risk. Timing. Today might not be the right day for you to start this journey. That's okay. To look ahead and say, in 3 years, my situation will be different. Or as soon as the kids leave home, or as soon as that last one gets through college, or as soon as, maybe you have very elderly parents, and so that pulls on you a lot. Or maybe you have 2 years until you get some sort of retirement from where you are. So you want to consider all of those things. But what I don't want you to do is say, the time's not right, and stuff it all away and wait for that right day. Because we all know that right day never comes. So if your goal is to do something different, you have to start taking steps toward it right now. So let's just take an easy one. If you want to start a business, you say, I really like to be self-employed. What can I start to do to learn about that? Well, SCORE. There's a SCORE chapter in every city. And they offer, it's a something of retired executives, SCORE. They offer free, very low cost, some free, very free mentoring, very low cost workshops, like $30. That you can learn about writing a business plan. You can learn about marketing. You can learn about social media. You can learn the legal side. You can learn accounting. Taught by these very experienced people who've done it. That moves you closer toward your goal. But what I see happen over and over again is the timing's not right, therefore I'm not going to do anything. We don't want that. Because literally let me tell you why I'm so adamant about this. Because for 9 years, I worked with people who'd lost their jobs. And I would love to have $1 for every time someone sat across from me in their 50s, 50 and up, who said, I have no idea what happened. I really don't like this job. I've never liked this job. I certainly didn't expect to be 52 years old and sitting here having no idea what I wanted to be when I grow up. Hate that phrase, as you recall. But then I smacked him. No, not really. And they've just got this look on their face like, what happened? What happened? How did this happen to me? And it's because it's sort of like I wanted to be more than this. I wanted to do more than this. They used the word someday I will about 1,000 times, and they never did because they were too busy doing other things. If you do not make time to advance your career in the direction you want it to go, there is no one else who will do it for you. So don't wait. When I talk about sometimes we are activated by a kick in the seat of the pants, and sometimes that kick in the seat of the pants is losing your job. Oops, now what? Now I'm freaked out. I'm not going to make good decisions when I'm freaked out. Nobody does. So you want to start moving toward this right now. There is a wine shop here in Cincinnati called Piazza di Sepoli. There's a few of them around town. And Marty Piazza was a bank president, regional bank president. And he started building this wine store on the side with a partner. When Marty saw the writing on the wall, he knew they were going to consolidate and get rid of those positions. So Marty was the exact example of what you should do. When he got laid off, he's like, all righty, he already had this other thing starting to move. And so he turned around, threw himself entirely into the wine shop. Now they have 3 of them. He's the happiest guy on the planet. He wears jeans and t-shirts and schleps wine cases all around. But he started building the other bucket of stuff before he lost the first bucket. Because believe me, when you lose that first bucket, your mind is not in the right place to be positive and proactive. So you want to start moving and thinking now. Okay, true or false? You have to know exactly what you want to do before you can look for it. False. Why? Why?
Because you may already know what you want, you just may not have put it into action.
Or you might not know what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times we say, I want to do, we feel like we can't start to think about it or move toward it until we can put a job title on it. And I want you to think like this, okay? Like a funnel, okay? At the top of the funnel, this is the person who says, I have no idea what I want to do. I could be an engineer. I could be in sales. I could drive an ice cream truck. Those people are rare. They're out there, but they're rare. Most of us are about here. We say, like I was talking to a young lady recently who was in a market research firm. Always thought she wanted to do market research. Absolutely hated it. Lasted 4 months and got fired. And she is feeling pretty bad about herself. And I said, you know what? You got fired from a job you hate. Party on. That's great. Now you can figure out what you want to do. Okay, so we're up here. Okay, so now I'll take her as an example. I thought I wanted to do market research. I know I don't want to do market research. That's a win, right? I also know I don't want to sit in front of a computer all day or work with data all day. I wasn't close enough to the customer. Okay, good. Now because we know what we don't want to do, we can start narrowing in on what we want to do. Okay, so so now I've got a list of what I don't want. Okay, and by elimination, you can start to say if I want to be out in front of people more, I want to be collaborating, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you can turn that negative into a positive. But the goal is, so you've got that person up here. Down here, you've got the person that says, I want to do this for this company. I know somebody like that. It took her 2 years to get it, but she did. And she had the benefit of being able to wait. Most people, when they're in a job search, you need to be about right here. Here's the kinds of things I want to do. Here's what it would look like, and here's what a lot of organizations call it. But when you're up here and you're looking at a career change and doing something different at some level of different, all you need to be able to do is describe in some level of detail the types of work. I really enjoy working directly with customers. I like going to customer sites. I like to help them figure out what their issues are. And because I am so skilled and knowledgeable about technology, I would really love to work inside of a technology company, helping customers figure out how to maybe either better manage their inventory or manage their internal people systems using technology. Okay, well that's about here, okay? And so then the next step becomes, what do they call that in various places? But if you said that to me, I would go, oh, okay. It's enough for me to start thinking. It's descriptive enough. So even when you get here and you're able to say, if I say, Joe, I'd really like to meet with you because I've got some ideas about what I'd like to do, and I think that they might do a lot of this in a university environment, and I think you know a lot about working in university environments. Can you kind of just sort of brainstorm some ideas with me? Sure. So I'm going to kind of put it out there, and you're going to give me your feedback. And as we get out and we talk to people, we start refining what we want to look for. So don't let the fact that you don't know exactly what you want to do and you can't put a fine point on it yet, don't let that stop you from going out and doing your detective work. Because that's really what this is about. It's about doing good detective work. If you see somebody who's got a job that you envy, ask them about it. How'd you get there? People love to tell you. They do. People love to talk about themselves. So you want to start moving toward. Picture the funnel. Where are you on the funnel? Where can you go? And if you're literally, nobody's up here, I don't think, let's say you're here, and your goal is to get down here, but in the next 6 months, you put together a plan that says, I'm going to get to here. That is a win, folks. that is a win because most people stay here. And so you want to move down here and be able to articulate it. You want to make this your project, to figure out what's going to make you happy inside of the framework of career happiness. Okay? So, okay, we're going to talk about some of this stuff that I want you to do, and we're going to take questions. First of all, let me back up for a sec. Does all this make sense so far? Does it make sense? Does it, or is anybody going, you know, this lady's crazy. This doesn't apply to me. I thought I was coming to a tax seminar. What?
The only question I is like, I thought I knew what I wanted and I went for it and oops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sets you back on your heels, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But good for you. Really, there's nothing to feel bad about.
I guess. It's just that I go like, well then
Okay,
I know
well,
what I want.
back up.
This and-
Good for you. There's nothing to feel bad about.
Okay.
Party on. Right? Yeah. Right. What'd you learn from that experience?
That I don't know what I want.
No. Okay, the remedial class starts right after this at 9 o'clock. Okay, you learned what you don't want, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now you have to go find the next thing that you think you might want. You will get it right, as long as you pay attention to the lesson you learned in the first place. Like, oh, like you have to look back at what didn't work and say, here are the components that I thought I was going to like that I didn't. You know? I was talking to a woman the other day who is the most well-connected, self-aware, go-for-it person, one of the most I know. She was like, yes, I'm so excited about this new job. She's been in it 4 months. I saw her at an event. She goes, I hate my new job. I said, you have got to be kidding me. She said, no. She said, I learned about myself in the last 4 months these two things. I never knew that until I was in the middle of it and didn't have it anymore. I didn't realize how much I needed it. We are learning about ourselves every day. And there are things that we think we're going to enjoy that we don't, and things that we don't think we're going to enjoy that we do. And that's a part of it. I mean, to use a really super tired cliche, it really is not about a destination, it's about the journey. Because right when you think you've gotten to the destination, it's going to change. Because you change, or the market changes, or something changes in that formula, and you got to go find it again. So you might as well figure out how to do it right the first time, right? Okay? So, all right, so over here. Thoughts? Is this making sense? Yeah? Michelle? Yes? Okay. Anybody have a red score? Red score? Still 1-1? What inning? Oh, for heaven's sakes. I have mixed feelings because we have tickets for tomorrow. But I do want him to win tonight, so I'm still rooting for him. Okay, all right. Now, here's what I want you to think about. Your best bet, by the way, if you would like me to send you a copy of these slides, I'm happy to do that if you leave me your contact information, okay? I just didn't want to print a bunch off and waste paper. Okay. You have assignments before next week, but we're going to talk about those. We're going to talk about what that means and why I'm having you do this, okay? As you recall, today is about understanding and mindset. The understanding piece is around what does it take to change careers, right? What is that continuum? How much right now in your life do you want to take on? What might that look like? And getting in the right mindset. So as you work through, as you start thinking about this, and you start thinking about what next week, what we're going to talk about next week, which is really about kind of planning, and exploring and planning. We have to have something to be exploring and planning. So what I want you to do, because to me the most value that you can get out of anything like this is to start applying it to yourself right away. Because we go sometimes to these programs, to any program, and we think, okay, yeah, I learned it, but then what do? We take our folder and we put it back on the shelf. And we never look at it again. And then we throw it away when we leave. Or someone throws it away for us. So I don't want you to do that. So in order to get the most out of this, we really need to start acting. And so what I want you to think about, if you are, now how many of you, remember the slide at the beginning, I said, define is when you say things like, I don't know what I want to do, but I know it's not this. And get is, I know what I want to do, but I don't know how to get it. How many of you are in the define category? You're still looking to kind of define your career happiness, okay? How many of you are in the I think I know what I want, but I'm not sure how to get it category? Okay, God, we're about half and half. Great. Okay, good, because I have different assignments for each of you, depending on where you are. So I want you to really give some thought. The idea is between this week and next week, I want you to advance your thinking. Okay? And don't be afraid. If you get stuck and you show up next week and say, man, I made no progress. First of all, you did. Because just by having this stuff in your brain and thinking about it and talking to people about it, you will move. The needle will move. And it moves at different levels for all of us. Okay. I want you to think about your own career happiness formula. Okay? I want you to start thinking about what you like to do or love to do, what you're good at and great at. I want you to just work on those two pieces. Okay? Think about not only the jobs that you've had, but think about your community activities, whether it's church or in a nonprofit or something with your kids' school. We are not just our work selves. When you really are thinking about how to be happier at work or how to move to the next level, you have to think about your whole life. Because sometimes our best clues are things that we do on the side, in the community. And sometimes we do those things because we aren't getting them at work. But we say, man, I can't wait to do this. What are the things you love? The old, what would you do if money was no object? If you coach soccer and you absolutely love that, what is it about it that you love? Why do you love it? Sometimes we say, I really like this. We say, well, why? What do you love about it? Oh, I don't know. I just love it. You've got to be able to break it down, right? So you can go find more of it. Okay, so think about, what are you good at? What do you like? And what are we good at? Things we get compliments on. Things that we feel really capable and successful. Things we're recognized for. Things people come to us for. No one is ever going to come to me when it comes to looking at numbers. They're just not. Now, they will come to David over here, not Julie. That's okay, I'm okay with that. And so what are things people come to you for? What are you good at? What do you like to do? So you want to think about internally, what do you think those things are? And then externally, what do you get feedback on? What do people tell you you're good at? Okay? And then, how would you tell somebody about it? The old question, tell me about yourself, that we all hate? We say, when we go on an interview, we say, well, please don't ask me that question. That one and what are your weaknesses? Those are the ones we hate. Tell me about yourself. I want you to think about, however you need to think about it. If I said to you next week, and I might, give me your homework, tell me about yourself. What I'm looking for here is, what do you like to do and what are you good at? When somebody says, tell me about yourself, one of the first things we always think about is, oh my gosh, where do I start? Or we say, what would you like to know? Which is another pet peeve, because the point is, what do you want me to know? It's not what I want to know, what do you want me to know? What do you want people to know about yourself? And just use, what do you like to do and what are you good at as your starting point. And think about, if someone said to you, well, Julie, I know you're looking for a job. Tell me a little bit about, how would I recognize the right opportunity for you? What do you want to do? You need to be able to answer that question. So we're going to start with sort of the core. What do you like to do? What are you good at? Because it's an and, it's not an or, remember? They both have to be there. I really like to sing. Would you hire me? Well, let me hear you sing. No, I'm not very good. Okay, no, I won't hire you. Okay. I love to sing. Can I hire you? No, I have stage fright. Okay, so both those things. Start thinking about those things, okay? How would you answer that question? How would you tell somebody about it? And I'm not going to tell you that I'm not going to ask you to do that next week, because I want you to be ready. But don't not show up just because you're not ready, okay? All right, that's bad. All right, okay, now start to put words to paper. What might, okay, the first part is, if you are looking to define, I want everybody to work on your career happiness formula, just to think about it, okay? If you are in the define stage, pay most attention to the top part of the slide. Okay, so now the next step is how put those words to paper. There's something really powerful about writing things down. Something really powerful about putting it in writing. I am good at this. I like to do this. What might my ideal role look like? Now we're getting down to the bottom of the career happiness formula. We're going to talk about pay and that kind of stuff later. Ideal role. What might my ideal role look like? Okay, this is a scary, fun exercise because I find that we start negative head talking ourselves all the way through it. I'd really like to do this, but nobody's going to hire me to do that, so I don't write it down. I'd love to do this. Oh, you can't do that. We've got this like voice inside of our head that's telling us, or sometimes there's other people in our lives. Well, Emily, you can't do that. Are you kidding, Emily? You're not 30 anymore. You can't do that. Okay, so what might your ideal role look like? When we're talking about, now we're moving sort of from, when you look at, here's what it looks like. In other words, here's Dallas, okay? Now we're going to back up and we're going to say, okay, in order to get to Dallas, here's what that map might look like. Here's what it might look like when I get to Dallas. Here's what they might call me in Dallas. And who might I talk to get there? Who might I talk to? So here's who I am. Here's what I'm good at. Here's what I like to do. Now, what might it look like on paper? What might that look like in an employment situation or a career change? And then just start writing down some ideas of who are some of the people who you might talk to get more information to figure out if it's right for you or not. Because you might go through, coat's covering name, Margaret?
Yeah.
Okay, your coat's covering your tag. You might be like Margaret, and you might explore something. The goal is to find out before you leap, because maybe if you had done better due diligence, you might have known it wasn't going to be a fit for you. Maybe, maybe not. Depends on what it is. So the goal is to start imagining that path, figuring out what ideal might look like, and then start thinking about, okay, so let's say I could have all of my career happiness. Remember, you're not going to put it under your pillow and wake up the next morning with it there. So you're going to have to start taking action. So how will you tell your story? When someone says to you, so you're looking for a new job, you're looking to move in the company, tell me what you like to do and what you're good at. What would you say? And I'm going to tell you right now, that is harder to do than you imagine. Because first of all, we're really, really good at sort of deflecting and going, oh my gosh, David, you were so good at that. Oh, are you kidding? It took me like 5 minutes. Michelle, great jacket. Are you kidding? I got this thing at TJ Maxx, $12. Don't we? Oh my God, Julie, your hair is so pretty. Oh, are you kidding? I'm having a horrible hair day. Oh my hair stylist messed it up last time. We're so quick, aren't we, to just go, oh no. Are you kidding? That was no big deal. And that's because the things that we're good at look like no big deal to other people. So we don't give ourselves credit. So if you can start really thinking about what are the things that you're good at and have the courage to write them down, and then the double courage to say them, maybe just in the mirror, maybe just to your dog, okay? We gotta start small. It's really hard to stand up and say, hi, I'm Joe Wright, and I am really good at X, Y, and Z, and I love to do A, B, and C. It just feels weird. But it's a wonderful kind of weird, because when you own it, you're really willing and able to step out and say it to someone else. Okay, does that make sense? What am I good at? What do I like to do? And how might that look? Whoops. How might that look? How might I tell that story? And we're going to talk about it. And then, start writing it down. What might that role look like? What kind of people would I be working with? Would I work from home part of the time? Would I have flexibility? Would I work downtown? Would I, what kind of products and services would I prefer to be associated with? Start to imagine actually living your career happiness formula. And then who might I talk to? Who do I know who might know something more about that? Now, I'm not going to ask you to reach out to anybody. We really are not there yet. What we're really working on is starting to imagine your possibilities. Realistically, none of us are going to be supermodels, ladies. So how can we be realistic and come back from that construction worker to ballerina to not only make it desirable, but also doable, very practical? Okay? So, okay. So, this is an FYI. It's my website. There are free downloads that you get if any of these would help you. 20 ways to rock your job search, 52 tips to drive your career, and networking from UGG to AHA. And we also have a Facebook page where I post a lot of good content too. So if you want to write this down, you want to sign up for my site or join our Facebook group, we'd love to have you. All right, questions. You're starting to think ahead. You're thinking about how can I start to do this? I'm going to go home and I'm going to have a blank piece of paper and I'm going to go, ooh, now what do I do? What are the questions that you think you might have as you're looking forward as you start to do this? Emily, you have a questioning face at this moment.
When you said that, I thought, I don't know, what questions would I have?
If you had a question, what would it be? Joe?
My questions will be, I kind of know what skills set inventory that I have,
Okay.
but I might be going a little bit ahead of myself in terms of how do I optimize or maximize my earning potential with this skill set, knowing I could fit probably these kind of job descriptions.
Okay, so you probably need market information, right?
Yes.
So right now what you're saying is, I know what my skills are. I need to figure out how do I maximize my earning potential using my skills.
Yes.
Okay? So do you imagine that's something you can think about and you'll come up with the answer?
I try to.
Yeah, okay. You need more information, right? So who might you talk to? Who could give you that information?
Probably career experts like yourself.
Or other people who are in those jobs, right? Okay, so you need information from resources, from people out there doing that sort of work. Okay, so as you start to think about, so I would challenge you to go back and say, okay, so pretend you're sitting across from one of those people. Tell your story. Not right now, but I want you to think about it. So let's walk ahead, and you are having a networking meeting with somebody who has the same skill set you are, who's been able to be very successful. Okay? And they said, Joe, tell me about yourself. How would you explain that? How would you explain yourself to someone? How would you answer those questions in order to get the information you need? Sit in front of the mirror, do whatever it is to practice it. Because that would be your next step, is to go gather that information, right? Okay? Other questions? Uh-huh.
I'm very good at what I know I'm not good at
Okay.
versus what I am good at.
Okay, tell me 2 things you're not good at.
Reading.
Reading?
I read real slow,
Okay.
and I process information very slowly.
Okay. All right. You're a slow reader and you process information slowly. Okay. So then you probably do not want to be in a situation that requires you to take in a lot of data, whether it's the written word or numbers, and spit it back out in some sort of format to someone. So any sort of analytical position, any sort of information capture, summary, and like rereading is not going to be good for you. So you're probably, so now tell me, tell me 2 things you are good at. Oh, for heaven's sakes. I don't care what they are, anything. You bake good cookies, I don't care. Just tell me something. Tell me something you're good at.
I communicate well, and I throw very good parties.
Okay. Okay, great. So what about your parties is so special?
Don't know. People always like them.
What do they like about them?
Alcohol.
Well, that's true too.
Before they get there, a lot of pregame.
Yeah.
What?
Probably planned well.
Okay. So they're fun, they have good food, it's a good mix of people. What is it?
Yes. All of the above.
Okay, all right. So you have good planning skills, right? You like to cook? I mean, is that, okay, so do people at your parties eat? Events eat?
Kroger's has lots of.
Okay. So people don't come necessarily for your cooking. They come because you bring interesting people together,
Yes.
maybe? And you have events that are well planned. People have a good time. They want to be invited back. So you're a good planner. You probably have good intuition in terms of the right mix of people. You probably set a really nice atmosphere, right? So you're more of a, so are you creative? Okay, everybody's creative in some way.
What I'm very good at is knowing what people like. I can usually pick up on what they enjoy and don't enjoy.
Okay. So again, kind of the good people skills, good intuition, good communicator. So you're much more like, so over here you've got David, and who's really good with like numbers and analysis and all that, like the kind of stuff she's talking about. You could probably do that, right? Can you plan a great party?
Pretty good.
Pretty good? Really?
Actually, I'm an accountant.
Are you really? You are?
I was.
Yeah. So,
Which schizophrenic, by the way.
yeah. Okay. So, you know, when you start to really, so see what you're doing is there's things that you're good at, but you're poo-pooing them. You're not giving yourself the right credit. So it's like ask one more question. So people, I throw great parties. Well, what's great about them? You know, I don't know. Well, sure you do. What do people tell you is great about them? You know, so you break it down. What are the elements of a party? It's the people, it's the setting, it's the food, it's maybe the themes, or the, you know, just your personality that you really draw great people to you. So you have everything that you're good at or not good, you have to break it down. I really don't like that. Well, why not? I really don't like numbers. Well, why not? You know why? So you have to. You're stopping up here at the surface, and if you sit down with somebody who knows you well, you challenge them to start throwing these questions at you. And if you start to just say, break it down into skills, break it down into, I'm good at this, I'm not good at this. I wish I was good at this, but I'm not. I'm good at this, but I don't want to do it. Use that formula. And you, sometimes when we get like way down, and we're not feeling particularly confident or good about our possibilities or our capabilities, we really can't see anything that we do that's good. And so I challenge you to get a couple of people who know you really well and love you, and they might know you professionally too, to really help you put together that list of things that you're good at. There's a book that I recommend. It's called Career Distinction. Okay? For the price of a book, which is about 16 bucks, there is a cheap and easy tool in there that's an online tool that you can send out to 30 people you know and ask them to pick adjectives that describe you. I just did a half-day session with a small company, and it was, you can pay thousands of dollars for assessment tools. For the price of a book, you get all the information you need. So if you're trying to get focused on how people see you because you're having a hard time seeing it yourself, that book and that assessment tool is the best way to get people who know you to give you feedback in a really in a really low-key sort of way. And then you can start using those words and phrases. Say, wow, you know, 6 people said I'm this, well I must be. Because you're only going to send the tool to people who you respect and you value their opinion. So if 10 people say that you're this, you are. Don't argue with it, don't fight it. You are. Accept it, embrace it, say it, put it in your message. Oh, and so we have to get really comfortable with what we bring to the table. And know that if the people who think highly of us, they aren't just blowing smoke up our skirts when they say this stuff to us, they mean it, so we have to start believing it. So that's something that, once you get a little bit of confidence under your belt, a little bit of success, and again, that builds a little bit at a time, the more comfortable you're going to be taking this stuff on. So start with that. If you're really struggling, if you say, I have no idea what I'm good at, start with that. It's great. And simple. We like simple. Mm-hmm.
Question from home?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
My house? Was it my home?
No, not your house. Conrad from Pennsylvania asks, if you've been in between jobs for some time, a year plus, the gap can be hindrance in transitioning to a new career. How do we deal with that?
Okay. Been out of work for a year and a half. We have a question from home. Out of work for a year and a half. The most important thing is, what have you been doing during that year and a half? There's a couple things that are working in your favor at this point. The economy's not good, right? So most people, there is much more acceptance of being out of work for long periods of time than there was, say, 10 years ago. So the economy is on your side. Everybody knows people who've been out of work for a long period of time, people they love and respect. Part of this mantle of being out of work for a year and a half is something we carry ourselves, that the world is not as critical of us as we are on ourselves. Okay? So a lot of times people are like, oh gosh, I've been out of work for a year and a half. Well, yeah, gosh, so is my brother. Man, it's really hard out there right now, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Okay, so you have to be okay with it. And then the question is, why have you been out of work for a year and a half? Is there not much demand in your geography for what you do? So there are market reasons why you've been out of work. So that needs to be part of your message. Second part is, what have you been doing during that time? I was meeting with a client today who's been out of work for about a year. His father died, they moved, his wife was getting a business off the ground. He had compelling, pressing things he was working on, and those were more of a priority for him than finding the next thing. Have you done volunteer work? Have you done community work? Have you learned anything new? Have you taken some online courses? Have you been volunteering with a job search group? You know, all of those things go into how we make up our time, how we spend our time. This is one of those answers, because this is one of the key questions in a job search is why are you out of work? What have you been doing since you've been off work? How you answer it is just as important as the content of your answer. Because if you say, well, I've just really been looking for a job and it's just been really hard and nobody seems to want to hire me, and it's probably because I'm over 40 and you know, blah, 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 people are going to go, whoa, I don't really want you here either, aren't they? Because, and so that matters. On the other hand, if you say, you know, yes, I've been out of work for a year and a half. You know, as you know, the market has been very tough, especially for someone with my particular skill set. And although I've been spending a lot of time looking for a job, I've also used this time to take care of some personal issues. And I've also been volunteering at my church, helping job seekers there, and have really gotten to spend a lot of time with my kids. I really am looking forward to getting back in the workplace and using my skills and my experience to contribute to my employer at the same level I did my past employer. Smile! Isn't that like entirely different? That's your life, and that's okay. See, Julie, as long as you're okay with it, that's most of the battle. But people walk in like they're dragging the world on a chain behind them, they're Eeyores, and that is the kind of stuff that will blow you out of the water when it comes to a job search. It's because people say, I don't really want this person working with me, because is she going to come in and like moan and groan every day? If so, no thanks. Okay, hope that helps. Anything else?
Yeah. From searching, what if you've been raising children at home for 5 years?
Good for you. Yeah, you know, moms who've stayed at home have a very difficult time getting back in the workforce. And let me tell you, the biggest reason why is because along the way they've lost their confidence, they've lost their mojo. They start from a position of believing they don't have anything to offer. Well, who would want me? I've only been raising kids for the last 5 years. I'm guessing that's not all you did. A lot of women do volunteer work. They might be doing some part-time sort of work. They've been, you know, maybe doing some, you know, working at the kids' school, maybe running a project or a fundraiser or something like that. So really think about, what did you do to use and build your skills while you're out of work? Now, it's not about what you've done for the past 5 years. It's about what do you want to do moving forward, and how are you prepared to do that? So figure out what you want to do, and then make sure, do you have the education? Do you have the skills? What can you learn online? You know, coming back in the job market, whether you're coming back from being home or coming from being overseas for a few years, is kind of the same process. Spend some time with people who do those jobs. Start aligning your skills and interests with what's required to do that job. You have to make a compelling case for why you're a good fit for that job. The good news is there's a lot of women in the workforce who've been in your shoes, and they understand that you have a lot to contribute. So it's a business case for why you're qualified to do what you want to do. If you're still home, if you're listening to this and you're still home, start doing it now. Because what you don't want to do is bury your head for 5 years and then try to go back and go from 0 to 60 in 6 months. You've got to start building those relationships. Reach out to other moms in your community who've gone from home to the workforce. Ask them how they did it. Connect in their company. You want to find people who understand where you've been, understand your story, and have perhaps lived your story. Because they're a much more compelling, they're a much more sympathetic audience than someone who has never done that. And so you have to start getting in the mindset and acting as if, you know, and acting as a professional and starting in those environments again. Do not apologize for your decisions. The person you're interviewing with, either their mom did it, their wife did it, their sister did it, they did it themselves. So this again is a case of mindset. If you're very comfortable and keep up to date on what's going on in your world, in your markets, and in your community, and align what you did before you decided to stay home, what you did while you were home with what the needs are. If you can fill an organization's needs and you believe you can, then that again is about 80% of the battle. They will see you in the way, as old Dr. Phil says, we teach people how to treat us. And so when you go to the market with skills and a belief and are able to message that, then you're way ahead of the game. But do not let that hold you back. Do not apologize for it. Anything else here?
I have one more.
Uh-huh.
Okay. What if I know what I want to do, but I'm not sure how to make it a job, or what job would use those skills?
Boy, I'd like to know. Can you ask the question back what they want to do? Or not?
I cannot, that's all.
Okay, all right. Okay, if you know what you want to do, first of all, you have to figure out, is it even a job? Right? I mean, does anyone do this for a living? And you can go on LinkedIn. You can do a keyword search on LinkedIn to find somebody who might do something similar. You can just simply, Google a bunch of job titles and combinations. Go on Monster. Think about what you want to do, what the common terminologies and phrases are, and what the terms and phrases are, and the keywords, and just go out and start doing searches. The more if you can find people who actually do those jobs, not only do you know that kind of job exists, but you know who to talk to. Remember what I said before? People love to talk about themselves. So if you say, hey, so-and-so, I saw I saw your profile on LinkedIn. I think your job sounds like what I want to do. Is there any chance you'd be willing to speak to me on the phone if you're not local and tell me a little bit about how you got there? Even look at their profile and see how they got there. So the first thing you have to do is figure out, is that a job? Who's doing that job? How did they get that job? And so the more you can find that proof that it exists, the more you know you're on the right path. Without knowing any more about what they want to do, it's hard to answer that. But knowing what you want to do, and I'll tell you what, sometimes when you know what you want to do, and I actually built my entire business around what I wanted to do. I told my husband, I'm only going to do what I want to do from now on. He rolled his eyes. I said, seriously, just watch me. So that's what I do. I built my entire business around what I like to do and what I'm good at. And so sometimes you have to forge your own path. Even if there's not a title out there that exists, I'm going to make one. Remember this, as long as there's a demand for what you do, there's a potential job there. It may not be a full-time job, maybe it's a side job while you're building it. But always think in terms of demand. What's the demand for, and how can you fill it? And there's so much information available to us these days that you can find that out. Do not be afraid to reach out to people. I was talking to this guy who's like a LinkedIn expert in Europe. He's in a few different countries. He's considered those countries' LinkedIn expert. He was telling me he had a meeting with the CEO or the CEO of LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman. How'd you get that? Just sent him an email. Like, really? What's the downside? He never answers. So don't be afraid to reach out and talk to others who've done something similar or who've built something on their own. Don't be afraid to reach out. Most people are more than happy to share. And if they don't, try the next person. What else? Thank you. Get busy. See you next week.